So welcome back to CS150 Personal Productivity Using Technology with Dr. X. So today we are going to explore something that is not in the volume 1 of your book, and that is chapter 7 that explores macros and forms. So this is a little more advanced, but you're a super user of Word right now, so you can take a little bit more advanced training. So here's what we're going to learn first. First thing we're going to look at is how to record a macro and how to run a macro. So what is really a macro? Okay, a macro is a program. It's a program that can be executed multiple times, and this automates some functions that you perform repeatedly. So recording a macro can be a huge enhancement boost in your productivity. So as you can see, I went ahead and opened the W07C1 travel document, which is a travel reimbursement form. And then I've got this weird developer tab in front of me. Okay, I'll show you how I got this. Okay, I went up to customize my ribbon, and here's the developer tab. So I checked off this developer tag. So if I check it off, you see it doesn't exist anymore. So you gotta go to options and then customize your ribbon and then reveal the developer tab. This is an extra tab for super users. Okay, not everybody uses it every day, so it's not appearing with all the default tabs. And as you can see, there's a bunch of cool things that you can do with this tab, and one of these is the macros. Of course, you also have a nice shortcut at the bottom of your Word menu that can be used to record macros. But in the developer tab, you have more options: record, security, and check your macros, code. And we're going to explore all these features. So let's go ahead and record a macro. Okay, we're going to name this macro text box. And we will assign this macro to a keystroke, and this keystroke will be Control L. Control L because there's no other shortcut that uses Control L, and so that's our keystroke. Do not forget to hit assign and then close. And now we are recording the macro. And how do I know we're recording? Well, there's a little tape at the bottom of my mouse pointer. So this is a legacy, of course. Picture, video, recording using tapes. Okay, you may not have never used tapes. So here are controls for your form. And I'm going to use one of the simplest ones. Well, not the simplest one, but I'm going to use the rich text content control. So that's one thing I want my macro to be able to do with Control L. And then I want to tweak the properties of this rich text content control. And I want to make this one undeletable. And I want to have a title here. Please enter name. Click OK, and that's it. So now here's my nice rich text control, and now I can even change the title in the properties. Maybe I don't like that title. Maybe it's going to be enter text, more generic. So I'm currently recording, so everything I choose that should be done and finalize, it's going to be final. I can even change a little bit the color of this text control to, let's say, purple, because it's my favorite color. And I also locked this text control so that it cannot be deleted. And here we are now. I will stop recording my macro. So now I've got a really nice macro that I can use. The problem is that I made this text undeletable, so that's a little bad. Now, what I can do is go to design mode, and in design mode, I am like a developer that is designing the document, and I have the option, if I click on the flap on top of the text control, I have the option to delete that. And then go back to normal mode, another toggle switch. The Visual Basic that I can use is to look my macros. So I can look at the macros of this document, and what I can do is look at my macros text box and then edit. And that can open immediately the macro in Visual Basic. Okay, Visual Basic is the programming language, okay, but you can recognize it already. Over here, what you've done is you created a macro that probably is a sub in the code, and the macro name is text box, and then there's some parentheses, that's syntax of the Visual Basic language, and then the macro title and tag was please enter name in the beginning. Well, that's unnecessary. I got rid of that, so I can delete this in the code. It's unnecessary stuff. The log control is true, and the macro title is enter text. I could even delete the tag and not have a tag for my macro if I wanted to, and see how this can work. Save this and minimize that window. That is a separate window. So let's say now I want to use this rich text control and add this rich text control into next to the name. So I will delete this star, and I will add a rich text control, which will be Control L. And here's my really cool Control X. That doesn't even have a tab. It has only the enter text, and it's really cool. With Control L, I got to be able to enter a rich text control, which takes the size of the text next to it. So if I do Control L here, there's my other rich text control, and that's it. That's my very cool macro, and I can't delete it unless I'm on design mode. Okay, so now I could even add other fields like, let's add a date picker field over here in design mode. And when I'm out of design mode, my user can use this field to pick a date. So that is the really cool thing. You are in two different modes here. It's like editing mode and then non-editing mode. So when the user is using your form, it's non-editing mode because you don't want the user to mess around with your form. Other things that I can add simple text, plain text content here, and I can mess around with the properties of this plain text content. I can make it pink, click OK, and now it looks pink. I could add personal car. I could add a checkbox next to the personal car, and see, I'm not in design mode, so I can check off that checkbox. If I'm in design mode, the checkbox looks different. Everything looks quite different. So here I can have the properties, and I can make these remove content control. I can change some parts of these properties. So other things that I can add, airfare here in design mode. Let's see some cool other things. There's even more active X controls. For example, I can add a text box active X, which is a little different than the other text boxes, and it also has different properties. Actually, it has a load of properties. It can be auto-sized. See, it's auto-sized now, and if I start editing this one out of design mode, it grows, it gets bigger. So I can get all of these cool different features with my forms. So other things that I can do with forms, all of these different boxes, I would fully encourage you to use and play with these, because they're really, really neat. So these are simple text, and you can double click to look at the properties. This can only be a number and all these different things. Why is a form so useful? Well, it's much better to be able to fill a form than have to print it, fill it by hand, and fax it to somebody. Okay, this is a travel reimbursement form, so you don't want to have to use all of these different go through these steps. Another part that I'd like you to look at is this drop-down menu. Okay, the drop-down menu, you can add properties and you can add multiple fields. So the display name can be Southwest, for example. Different airfares, air companies, and the value can be Southwest. Add another one, let's say Delta. Click OK. Add another one, and let's say US Air. And click OK, and then click OK. Now you can see that your user can use one of these different options. So all of these very, very cool features. So this is a quick review of the forms. They are very, very useful, but on the next lecture I'm going to show you some forms that are a little smarter than the simple Word forms, and they are created with Google Docs. So a very cool thing that we've learned, it's magical, it's the macros. Okay, I mean, look at that. Control L and enter text here. I mean, this is really cool. It's saving me from so much grief and so much, bus fare, gray bus, Greyhound. And I'm entering my text. So with a single click, with a Control L, I get a whole set of features that I would like to do repeatedly multiple times. So finally, I want to restrict the editing of my document and allow the user only one type of editing, like changes or comments, or not changes, only read, or allow to just fill in the forms. This way, I don't let the user mess around with my form and delete the text boxes and all these different things. I can also add a signature. A digital signature line can be added right here, and my user can sign this document. So all of these nice features, the restrict editing protects my form so that it doesn't get messed up, and yes, start enforcing protection, and then you can omit the password. So now at this point, nobody can delete. I am hitting delete, but I can't delete the text box, and that's about it. But you can always stop the protection and go back to your editing. So that's a brief overview of some very advanced super features for a super user. Now at this point, you can create a form, you can have your developer tab, you can also record a macro, and who knows, you may even discover a very cool talent that you may have in coding and start looking at your macros as a code and start learning Visual Basic. So that would be just amazing, because the next step is going to be hackers and hack for good purposes, no bad purposes. Always good. Always be good. So I will see you next time with some Google documents to figure out how we can find similarities between Word and Google Word, and how we could even create forms with Google Docs. See you next time. Bye.